It began as most world-changing events do on a Tuesday. Not the sort of Tuesday where history books record noble speeches or decisive battles, but the kind of Tuesday where you accidentally microwave your coffee twice and still forget to drink it. In New York, the morning news was cycling between two major stories: the discovery of a microbe that could theoretically eat plastic, and an ongoing scandal involving a pop star, a hoverboard, and 6 inflatable flamingos. In Geneva, at the United Nations headquarters, a conference on sustainable asteroid mining was underway, and in orbit was something no one had put on the calendar. The object appeared without fanfare. One moment, the sky was a clear blue over the Atlantic. The next, it was eclipsed by something that made every other biggest ship ever seen headline instantly obsolete. A crystalline structure the size of Manhattan hung in the upper atmosphere, shimmering with alien geometry that seemed to bend light itself. Its surface shifted between gold and cobalt, with flashes of something like stained glass catching the sun. For 20 seconds, humanity gawked. For 21, governments scrambled. By 22, conspiracy forums were already claiming the object was either a sign of the end times or a publicity stunt for a new Marvel reboot. Inside the UN building, Amelia Rourke was halfway through explaining to an Estonian delegate why the asteroid mining proposal's tax plan was mathematically criminal when her earpiece erupted with static. Rourke came the clipped voice of her superior, Undersecretary Hahn. "Drop whatever you're doing. We've got a first contact situation." She blinked. First contact as in aliens are here and very shiny. Get to the situation room. Amelia had trained for this. Well, she had taken the theoretical diplomacy in extraterrestrial engagement seminar 3 years ago, which mostly consisted of role-playing exercises with grad students in silver jumpsuits. Still, it was more than most people could say. By the time she reached the situation room, chaos had found its natural habitat. Delegates from every major bloc were already present, arguing over who should be the one to speak for Earth. A large screen showed the alien vessel hanging serenely over the Atlantic, its shadow swallowing the coastline. "Have they said anything?" Amelia asked, sliding into a seat beside Hahn. "They're trying," Hahn said, rubbing his forehead. "We've received a transmission on every frequency from microwave to AM radio, including one that somehow hijacked my smart fridge and ordered 40 liters of milk." On cue, the room's speakers crackled, and a deep, resonant voice boomed. "People of the blue-green sphere, I am Zorvok, High Legate of the Concord of Virelia. We come to establish terms." The translation was crisp, if oddly formal. Somewhere in the background of the transmission, a chime played, eerily similar to the Windows 95 startup sound. Zorvok appeared on the central monitor. He was tall, thin, and faintly luminescent, with a face that seemed grown rather than born, angular lines, and a vertical ridge down the center. His clothing was a cascade of iridescent panels that shifted colors as he moved. His eyes, silver with flecks of deep violet, surveyed the room as though assessing the structural integrity of each person present. "We have long observed your world," Zorvok continued, "and determined that now is the appropriate moment to initiate structured integration. You will yield specific resources, adopt prescribed governance, and—" Amelia raised an eyebrow. "Integration? Resources?" He's opening with a takeover pitch. Zorvok paused, apparently catching the comment through whatever universal translator he was using. "Yes. This is the part where your kind demonstrates submission in exchange for favorable treatment." Someone in the back muttered, "Bold of him to assume we have a unified kind." Hahn gestured for silence. "High Legate Zorvok, we welcome dialogue. However, this is a sovereign planet. We don't respond to ultimatums." The alien tilted his head, studying Hahn as if the human had just declared water to be a solid. "We expected initial resistance. Your species' recorded history is a sequence of disorganized conflicts over arbitrary divisions. But know this, we are patient, and we are inevitable." Before anyone could respond, the monitor flickered, and a new window opened beside Zorvok's image, apparently by accident. It was a looping gif of a cat wearing sunglasses captioned, "Deal with it." The room froze. What was that?" Zorvok demanded. A technician in the corner went pale. Sir, it looks like the presentation feed got crossed with, the ambassador's intern's laptop." Amelia covered her mouth to hide a laugh. "Well, we've made history. Humanity's first message to extraterrestrials is a meme." Zorvok's silver eyes narrowed. "Explain this data glyph." "It's humor," Hahn said carefully. A cultural expression. Zorvok studied the cat. Your culture depicts predators and spectacles as a method of asserting dominance. No, it's... Amelia started, then stopped. Actually, sure. Let's go with that. There was a long silence. The alien glanced at someone off-screen, murmuring in a liquid, untranslatable tongue. Finally, he said, if this is your opening display, then we have underestimated you. The Virelian Concord will convene to reassess our approach. Until then, Earth remains under observation. The transmission cut. In the sudden quiet, Amelia exhaled. Well, that went better than expected. Han shot her a look. Better? We may have just convinced a galactic superpower we're running a covert predator cult. Which, she said, is probably better than convincing them we're easy prey. By that evening, the alien ship had moved into a stable geosynchronous orbit, broadcasting nothing further. But on the galactic networks, which no human yet knew existed, clips of the dominance cat were already spreading, analyzed by scholars, decoded by military strategists, and feared by certain paranoid regimes. To them, it wasn't a joke. It was a challenge. For Amelia, though, the day ended in a quiet corner cafe, nursing a lukewarm coffee while her tablet exploded with requests for interviews, briefings, and security clearances. Somewhere out there, an alien leader had just decided Earth was not to be underestimated. She wasn't sure if that was a good thing. And she was even less sure about the ping she'd just received from an unknown sender. The message contained no words, just a new image file. A smiling dog, wearing a crown. The first real sign that the situation was spiraling came when the Continuum cut the translation lag from their transmissions. It meant they were no longer amused, now they were paying attention. The latest message appeared as text on every monitor in the UN command bunker without the usual ceremonial preamble. Your species represents an unstable variable. Surrender technological assets or face neutralization. Dr. Amelia Trent read it twice, not because she needed clarification, but because the simplicity was unnerving. The Continuum had stopped pretending to negotiate. Colonel Nathan Calder leaned against the edge of the war table, his uniform jacket unbuttoned, sleeves rolled to the elbow. He had the look of a man who just read an eviction notice and was deciding whether to burn the building down before leaving. I like how they say unstable variable, like we're the weird ones, he muttered. This from a civilization that once tried to terraform a gas giant. Zorvok, the defected Continuum strategist now in human custody, sat across from them. His posture was rigid, his skin's subtle blue bioluminescence pulsing in slow intervals, a sign of agitation, though Amelia doubted anyone but her had noticed. They are not bluffing, he said. When the Continuum categorizes a species as unstable, it ceases all attempts at assimilation. Neutralization becomes procedural. Procedural, Calder repeated, the word tasting bitter. That's what they call wiping out a planet. Zorvok didn't flinch. Is what they call correcting an error. Amelia glanced around the room. Every eye was on the holo display at the center, a slow, steady countdown ticking down from 72 hours. That was the Continuum's deadline. She'd spent the last 2 days trying to construct a counter-strategy, but every model the analysts ran ended the same way, humanity's destruction in under 6 hours once the fleet committed to the strike. The problem wasn't just the Continuum's superior technology, it was their efficiency. They didn't wage wars, they eliminated problems. And in the cold calculus of the galaxy, Earth had become a problem. We still have one advantage, Amelia said. Calder arched a brow. Please tell me it's not your charming smile because... Unpredictability, she cut in, ignoring him. They understand efficiency, they understand force, but they don't understand chaos. Every time we've stalled them, it's been because we've done something they couldn't model. That's not a strategy, Zorvok said flatly. No, it's a weapon, Amelia replied. We just haven't learned how to aim it yet. The room fell into a taut silence, broken only when one of the junior officers called up a projection of past incidents where humans had unintentionally rattled the Continuum, a radio telescope accidentally broadcasting decades of television sitcoms as a first contact signal, a man in Montana building a death ray out of microwaves that temporarily blinded an alien scout ship, the infamous Olympic opening ceremony that convinced an entire alien delegation that Earth was declaring itself the galaxy's entertainment capital. Calder studied the incidents and smiled like a man recognizing an old bar fight in grainy footage. So, you're saying we lean into the crazy? Amelia met his gaze. We make them believe that attacking us will unleash something they can't contain, can't calculate, and definitely can't survive. That requires coordination, Zorvok said, his voice clipped. Your species has difficulty with that, even in matters of survival. Calder's grin widened. Oh, you have no idea. But when we do pull together, it's usually because someone's dared us to. The rest of the day blurred into motion. Teams fanned out to every continent, not to fortify bunkers or sharpen military readiness, but to stage what looked like absolute planetary madness. Cities lit up their skylines with synchronized patterns visible from orbit. Fleets of drones shaped themselves into massive, moving sigils over major oceans. Radio channels were flooded with deliberately contradictory signals, half in military code, half in pop culture quotes. Amelia oversaw the coordination, walking the fine line between convincing performance and actual chaos. The key wasn't to scare them with weapons, but with possibility. At one point, a group of scientists pitched what they called Project Dominance Cat, a planet-wide broadcast of an enormous, snarling feline hologram that would loom over Earth's major population centers for precisely 13 minutes, then vanish without explanation. Calder approved it instantly, citing morale value and potential psychic damage to any alien allergic to cats. Even Zorvok seemed unsettled by the rehearsals. You are creating an illusion of power you do not possess, he told Amelia late that night, when the command center had thinned out to skeleton staff. That's the point, she said. But if they call the illusion... They won't, she said with a certainty she didn't feel. Not if we make them wonder what's behind it. By the 71st hour, Earth's surface was a theater of contradictions. One satellite feed showed tribes in the Amazon firing flaming arrows skyward. Another captured a convoy of custom-painted tanks rolling through the Nevada desert blasting 80s power ballads, loud enough to register on atmospheric sensors. Somewhere over the Pacific, the International Space Station released a cloud of metallic foil sheets that glittered like a swarm of knives in the sunlight. The continuum's countdown reached 0, and nothing happened. Instead, the enemy fleet stopped its advance just beyond the exosphere. From the ground, they were points of light. From orbit, they were a silent wall of shadow. No transmissions came. No weapons fired. They were simply watching. In the bunker, no one breathed. Calder leaned close to the comms officer and said, "Let's give them Act 2. Amelia didn't stop him. For 38 minutes, the Continuum fleet hung motionless above the planet. No threats. No signals. Just that silent, looming formation of ships, each the size of a mountain, blotting out swathes of starlight. In the bunker, the air was thick enough to chew. Amelia paced between consoles, reading data streams that told her nothing except the obvious. They were waiting for something. "They're observing," she murmured. Calder sipped coffee like a man watching the last 2 minutes of a tied championship game. Or maybe they're buffering. I've seen my Netflix do this. Zorvok's eyes narrowed. They are running probability chains. They will test you. If you fail, the fleet will strike before you understand you've lost. Then we don't fail, Amelia said. It came faster than anyone expected. The largest ship broke formation, descending until its shadow rolled across half the Pacific. A lance of pale blue light cut through the atmosphere, not a weapon, but a projection. The image filled the skies over multiple continents, a Continuum ambassador, draped in crystalline armor, its voice booming in flawless English. Homo sapiens, you claim the right to resist. Demonstrate your capacity. One engagement. Choose your champion. Win, and the fleet will reconsider. Lose, and your world is forfeit. The feed cut out. The ship returned to formation. And just like that, the clock was running again, only now, the countdown read 24 hours. Calder exhaled through his nose. Well, that's cute. Alien duel at high noon. That is not a duel, Zorvok said coldly. It is theater. They expect to crush your champion to show the futility of your defiance. It will be broadcast to every system under their rule. Amelia glanced between them. Then we pick someone they can't crush. A long silence followed, until Calder said, "I think I know a guy." The guy turned out to be Sergeant Hank Doyle, currently stationed at an Antarctic research post where his chief duties involved maintaining radar equipment, making questionable moonshine, and scaring penguins away from the generators. When Calder's team brought him in, Doyle looked less like a galactic savior and more like someone you'd find at the back of a dive bar, explaining how he once fought a bear. "You want me to fight an alien?" Doyle asked, eyebrows climbing under his frostbitten beanie. Amelia folded her arms. "They'll expect us to send a soldier with our best training, best gear. We're sending you because you're not predictable. Doyle scratched his jaw. You're saying I'm, what, weird enough to win? Calder grinned. Buddy, I've seen you try to order a cheeseburger in 3 different languages just to prove a point. You're perfect. The next 24 hours blurred into training that wasn't really training. Doyle was given access to Continuum combat footage, not to mimic their style, but to know exactly what not to do. Instead, Amelia had him study a seemingly random collection of Earth's greatest televised moments: Muhammad Ali's footwork, Jackie Chan's improvisational brawls, pro wrestling theatrics, and even competitive hot dog eating. Zorvok watched in disbelief as Doyle practiced faking an injury, rolling across the floor, then launching into an attack using a folding chair. This is madness, he muttered. This, Calder said, is humanity's native language. The duel took place on a neutral platform, a floating arena of shimmering energy suspended over the upper atmosphere. Millions of Continuum citizens tuned in. So did most of Earth, though some tuned in just to see if Doyle would really wear the sleeveless denim jacket he'd insisted on bringing. The opponent was exactly what the Continuum wanted: an 8-foot titan of silver exoskeleton and precision-engineered muscle, its every movement a lesson in efficiency. The crowd roared. The opening bell, if it was a bell, echoed like the shattering of glass across a canyon. The titan lunged, a blur of polished death. Doyle sidestepped, not gracefully, but just enough to let the blow miss by inches. He grinned, spread his arms, and shouted, "You hit like my Aunt Linda." Confusion rippled through the alien spectators. The titan hesitated, recalibrating. Doyle used the moment to do something no Continuum warrior would ever do. He turned his back, whistled, and adjusted his jacket like he was bored. The titan charged again. Doyle dropped to the ground, rolled between its legs, and slapped its armor hard enough to make a ringing clang. From the stands, the human half of the audience erupted. The alien half murmured in confusion. This was not how fights were supposed to go. Minutes stretched into a bizarre dance of provocation and retreat. Every time the titan tried to pin Doyle down, he slipped away with movements borrowed from playground dodgeball, carnival wrestling, or just plain dumb luck. At one point, he faked tripping over his own boots, only to land a solid elbow into the titan's knee joint. The sound of cracking metal drew the first audible gasp from the alien crowd. Zorvok leaned toward Amelia in the viewing chamber. He is dismantling the predictability of the engagement. The Continuum combat algorithms cannot adapt. That, Calder said, is the plan. The final blow came not from superior strength, but from a perfect storm of timing and absurdity. Doyle feigned a desperate stumble toward the arena's edge, the titan lunged for the kill, and Doyle twisted at the last second, hooking his foot behind the alien's ankle joint. Momentum did the rest. The titan pitched forward, slid across the arena floor, and toppled off the platform into the void below. Silence. Then an eruption of human cheering, so loud it overwhelmed the broadcast. The Continuum announcer's voice, tight and clipped, declared Earth the victor. Back in the bunker, Doyle dropped into a chair and opened a soda. "So, do I get a medal or just bragging rights?" Amelia smiled faintly. "Both. But you've also just made us a much bigger target." Zorvok's gaze darkened. "They will not honor the deal. Not truly. You have humiliated them, and humiliation demands a greater answer." Calder nodded slowly. "Good. Let them come. We're just getting warmed up." The celebrations didn't last. Barely 6 hours after Doyle's victory, the Continuum fleet shifted formation. Not a retreat. Not even a pause. Every ship angled toward Earth, their drives igniting with the cold efficiency of a machine resetting after a minor glitch. Amelia stared at the incoming data. "They're coming in force." Zorvok's mandibles clicked in a low, dangerous rhythm. "They are coming to erase you." The duel was a formality. Now they will burn the memory of your defiance from the stars. Calder took a long breath, his eyes fixed on the holographic map of the solar system. "Then we need to stop thinking about fighting their fleet. We need to make them afraid to fight at all." Doyle leaned back in his chair. "I'm guessing you're not talking about politely asking them to go home." "No," Calder said. "I'm talking about doing something so unpredictable, so fundamentally human, that their entire command structure will seize up trying to process it." The plan was insane. That was the first thing Amelia said when Calder laid it out. The second was that it might actually work. Over the next 12 hours, the entire planet mobilized, not in the traditional military sense, but in the way only Earth could. The internet was flooded with tailored messages, strange cultural artifacts, and historical footage spliced together into a single viral transmission. Every radio telescope, every communication satellite, even deep space probes were hijacked to carry it. When the Continuum fleet crossed the lunar orbit, they received it, an unbroken signal broadcast into every one of their command channels. At first it was nonsense, clips of sports victories, movie monologues, late-night comedy rants, and grainy footage of Apollo astronauts jumping in slow motion. Then it shifted to something else entirely. It was a declaration, not of surrender, but of unfiltered, chaotic humanity. It promised no retreat, no negotiation, and most disturbingly to the Continuum's rigid minds, no clear rules of engagement. It was unpredictable, contradictory, and absolutely confident. In their command chamber, the Continuum strategists watched the feed in growing unease. These were not enemies behaving logically. These were apex predators laughing in the dark. When the first Continuum ships entered Earth's upper atmosphere, they didn't find missile batteries or orbital cannons waiting for them. They found the skies lit with thousands of drones broadcasting holograms. Every ship they destroyed would be replayed across the galaxy in real time, an unspinnable record of the Continuum's failure to subdue a primitive world. Doyle and a team of pilots used retrofitted atmospheric fighters to harass the lead vessels, never engaging in traditional dogfights, but instead pulling dangerous, ridiculous maneuvers that forced the alien ships to overcorrect. Entire wings of Continuum interceptors broke formation chasing decoys painted with cartoon faces and kick-me signs. Amelia's ground network hijacked Continuum targeting systems, feeding them thousands of phantom threats in the form of uploaded images, sometimes genuine weapon signatures, sometimes a chihuahua in a Halloween costume. The aliens began to falter, and when they faltered, Calder struck. Using a captured Continuum shuttle, Calder, Doyle, and Zorvok infiltrated the flagship under the cover of the chaos. The ship's corridors were sterile, symmetrical, perfectly alien in their logic. Doyle broke the tension by loudly whispering, "Feels like a dentist's office in here. A dentist that hates joy." Their target wasn't the captain. It wasn't even the weapons core. It was the fleet mind, a centralized AI that coordinated Continuum battle tactics across thousands of ships. Destroy it, and the fleet would be reduced to individual commanders acting without perfect synchronization. Amelia fed them the schematics. Zorvok handled the alien security codes. Doyle handled improvisation. Halfway to the AI chamber, a Continuum guard patrol appeared. Calder froze. Zorvok reached for a concealed weapon. Doyle stepped forward. "Evening, fellas," he said, holding up what looked like a soda can. The guard scanned it, clearly confused. Then Doyle popped the tab, spraying fizz into the lead guard's sensor array. In the ensuing chaos, Calder and Zorvok took them down before an alarm could be raised. "You just blinded an elite warrior with soda," Calder whispered. Doyle grinned. "Carbonation is humanity's silent killer." The AI chamber was a cathedral of light, towering pillars of crystalline processors humming with alien thought. Zorvok moved to plant the virus Amelia had prepared, but as he interfaced with the core, something happened. The fleet mind spoke. "Human intruders. You are anomalous. You are dangerous." Calder stepped forward. "Then you understand why this ends now. Endings are inefficient, yet your chaos creates unpredictability beyond calculation. You cannot be conquered without cost exceeding benefit." Zorvok's hands paused over the interface. "Is conceding." Calder's eyes narrowed. "Say it. The Continuum will withdraw. Earth will remain sovereign. Contact is ill-advised." Doyle folded his arms. "So we win." There was a long silence. "You win." The fleet broke orbit within the hour. The alien withdrawal was abrupt, almost embarrassed. Across the galaxy, worlds under Continuum rule whispered of the planet that had stood its ground and made the most powerful empire blink. In the bunker, Amelia slumped into a chair. "So, we just became the most dangerous planet in the universe." Zorvok gave a slow nod. "You are now a legend. The Continuum fears legends." Calder looked at Doyle, who was halfway through a sandwich. "You realize they'll never leave us alone entirely." Doyle swallowed. "Good. I like the attention." And somewhere above, beyond the reach of any telescope, the story of Earth's impossible victory began to spread, not as a cautionary tale, but as a challenge.